As always, it's Monday morning and today's topic is going to be boundaries. Because around Christmas time, we're at the festive season, New Year's and all these lots of social time, we need some healthy boundaries there. So I really want to talk to that a little bit today. And this is something you may have heard me talk about before, but I really feel strongly about that this is an important area that we want to revisit on a regular basis, because boundaries, they're not set in stone, and they move. As you're healing and as you're more comfortable and grounded within yourself and more confident, your boundaries will shift as well. Okay, and sometimes people in your life do certain things that makes them either makes you move them further away from you or let them closer in as well. So that they're flexible. So that's why I like to revisit them. But I usually like to do that around the Christmas time, specifically to be very clear on what I am okay with engaging, what kind of behavior I am okay with. So I know what I say yes to and what I say no to, so I don't feel really drained, exhausted, and getting triggered and you can't sleep and there's a lot of resentment then sometimes, or for me, that around that, or you have some shame and guilt, and especially if you're a people pleaser and every time there's some festive seasons, you're always the one who does the big cook up and you're going to do the clean up and all these kind of things. So I want to go through all the boundaries with you guys today. I like to break them up in 5. Okay, so 5 different boundaries. So physical, emotional, verbal things, and time. I got stuck then. All good. But they're the 5 things that I like to look at, because they're different in a sense. I like to break that down to make it clearer for myself what I'm okay with. Okay? And as I said, for different people, those boundaries will look different. If it's some work colleague versus the local coffee shop or shop that you go to, you would have different boundaries with those kind of people, or your relatives, or a good friend, or a counselor, or a coach, or a doctor, all those people in your life. It will vary what you, for example, are okay with when it comes to verbal boundaries. Okay, and it's especially around Christmas time, when there's families coming together and some have very strong opinions, and there's so many things going on right now, right? So some people can have some healthy discussions around that, even though they may have opposing opinions about things, and that is totally healthy. But in some families, in some instances, that does not happen. It gets really aggressive and really violent when the topics are coming up, like the current medical situation, or whether this is about the environment and the global warming, or the political kind of issues. Then that can really heat up. Okay, so sit down with stuff and check in. Every time in the past I'm hanging out with these people, what is happening there? Maybe it's not just those kind of arguments. Maybe it's just that people are drinking, and at a certain stage there's too drunk, and it turns into quite an aggressive situation, and you don't want to be part of that. Okay, to be clear within yourself, okay, this has been happening for years often. Okay, this year I'm making a stand. It's either you're not going there altogether, or you decide that, okay, usually the first couple of hours is okay, having the meal together is okay, or then I'm drawing the line and I remove myself early. Give yourself the permission to do this. Okay, be very clear in that when it comes to whether you're okay with like I said, some people love heated discussions, and they don't mind swearing and things like that. For me, this is a bit more challenging. Okay, I like discussions, I like depth, I like people sharing their different opinions, but I don't really like it when the tone or the voice, the volume goes up and that. So that's kind of a bit triggering to me. But always know that when it comes to verbal boundaries, what you're sharing, what is always your choice. Okay, people can always ask you, especially around this time of the year when it's people you haven't seen for a while, what have you been doing, and there's a lot of questions. But it's it's your choice how much of yourself you're going to disclose and what not. Okay, especially if you know that some people might be gossiping, and then whether this is at work, telling all the other work colleagues, or if it's a family member that they're going to tell all the relatives and things like that. So if you're aware of this, be very clear what do you share and what not. You do not have to answer the questions. It's within your power how much detail you're going to share. Okay, that's kind of almost tips over a little bit to the emotional boundary there as well, because I'm talking about the emotional now, but when people do that, sharing your things and gossiping about this is crossing an emotional boundary as well for us, because we made ourselves vulnerable. We let them close. Like I always like to think of my most vulnerable part in the smallest circle, and then there's rings around me. And depending on how much I trust the person is how close I let them. So if you let a person close and you're telling them something vulnerable, and then they go and spread it around, then this really hurts. Okay. So when I think through about that, we know those people who do that. But when it comes to emotional, we also want to know, is this a person that always just talks about themselves? They never let you talk. They're never interested in how you're feeling or what you're doing. Okay, they want to catch up, but it's all about them. And sometimes it's natural, okay? Sometimes things happen in people's life that are really soul-destroying or heartbreaking, and they're really... And then it's all about them, and that is okay. But looking over the term of your friendship, of how long you know that person, is this always like this, or is it just now because that thing happened? And it goes when you have something really that you want to share, and you need some support with, that person still has time for you as well. Okay. So we can be there for each other. Do you feel like that person has your back? They're kind of more uplifting or encouraging, versus that toxic positivity where we're like, it's like cringe, we don't want that kind of thing. So no, where are your emotional boundaries there? Family members, when they're scapegoating you or ridiculing you, do you have time for this Christmas? What are you okay with and what not? And I write this down. I journal about this around this time to make myself clear things up, so I see clearly what am I okay with and what not this year. Okay, always compared to last year, how am I going to make it just a little bit better for myself this year? And moving on to the next boundary, the physical boundaries. That's it's always been an interesting one for me, because they're so different. Right? For some people, I'm totally okay hugging and I have no issue, but generally I'm not a very huggy person. But I know other people, they love that, they need that. So check in with yourself. How do you feel when there's in those physical around the physical boundaries? Do you like it when people put their arm around that closeness, being in very crowded rooms with lots of people where there's a lot of touch? How does that feel to you? Are you okay with that? Okay. And sometimes I use it as an opportunity to grow for myself too, because I know touch is a human need. Okay. There's even a study that says, like, to be healthy we need 7 hugs a day or something. So I know that most people in my life are healthy. They mean well when they hug. There's a few creepy people that we're not talking about them, but the healthy people where you intellectually know that it is safe to hug this person. But there's this part in you that still, this younger part that really kind of freezes up or gets really scared around or feels really icky and yucky when it comes to that kind of touch. So I know that, so and I can use this as an opportunity before I see that person. It's like, this year I'm allowing this to feel safe to have a hug with that person. Okay, so it can be that too, but if it's a real no, to also feel okay to say no, I am not hugging that I'm not touchy. To allow yourself to say that again. It's so personal. Everyone's slightly different, but it's about knowing what is right or not. And next year might be different. Okay, or in a few months down the track, you might feel different about that boundary there. Okay, we're going to be flexible and curious. We bring a curious mind to that, and as well with things boundaries. Okay, that's a little bit different. If you have a friend who constantly borrows your car or wants you to show them around, okay, or uses your things, or just walks into your house and grabs whatever out of the fridge. Okay, check in with yourself. Are you okay with that? Is that aligned with your values? Does that make you feel good that I'm a giving, generous kind of person, if it truly feels good to you? Or is there some resentment there? Do you feel like, it could at least ask, or something? Is there something there? Know that and have some clear boundaries there, okay, with that person. And with things around this time when we're giving each other gifts, I always have a very clear, or I feel really strongly about the environment and things being sustainable. So people question me on that, because I don't like receiving gifts, and I don't generally give gifts. Okay? And this is not, yes, perhaps in the past there was a lot of me not feeling worthy of receiving gifts, so check in with yourself, maybe that's you as well. But I've done a lot of processing on that, so it's no longer about that I don't feel worthy, but I have this strong commitment to myself that I want to leave the smallest footprint on this planet. So I don't want to receive things that I don't use. If you're doing secret Santa things at your work, what kind of gifts do you get? You don't even really, especially if there's big companies, you don't even really know that other person so well that you can give them a meaningful gift. Yes, it feels nice that you made time for that person to choose something, and I get all this, but if you feel really strongly about this like I do, then that might be a boundary there. So I always say to my friends, I rather spend time with you, let's do something, let's do an excursion, do something together, create memories together, rather than giving each other gifts. But that is one of my boundaries. I don't know what it is for you, but sitting down and thinking, what am I okay with and what not? And where are my limits here? Because sometimes people expect big gifts, this is a family, culture, ritual, whatever, that you do that. But maybe that doesn't feel good to you anymore. Know that and have that confidence within yourself to speak your truth. Okay, so you don't feel drained and have this heavy weight on you and that resentment. Okay, it doesn't feel good. You still do it, but it doesn't have that warm fuzzy feeling when you're giving something to a person. So I always, when it's gifts, sometimes you have a friend and they talk about something and they really like it, and then you surprise them with that, but it is a random day of the year. I love that, because then it's not something that society tells you that this is a time where you should be giving a gift because it's a birthday or a celebration or something. It's just a random gift of kindness, and I think that is beautiful. So, but again, we're all different here. But a very important one around this time of the year is our time boundary. How many hours are you willing to give, especially around volunteering? So many people, I know, so many of my friends and myself too, because I don't have children, around this time of the year you're more inclined to volunteer. It feels good, it feels generous, it feels like you're giving, you're contributing, and that is beautiful if that feels good to you. But sometimes if you're part of charity organizations and things like that, you might feel you don't even want to go there because they're going to ask you to do even more, and you feel like you already got too much on your plate. You can't do this. So be very clear and where is your line there and what feels good to you. And that is so key. That is so key. We don't have to let other people request something that we're not willing to give them, or that they can ask, but we it's within our power to say, sorry, I've got too much on my plate, I reach capacity, I can't. If something changes, I get back to you. Okay, it's not about being rude or it's just voicing it. It's like, I just can't this year, and letting that be okay there. And I guess time boundaries is also in helping out other people around this time, or all the year around. Whether it is people always want you to babysit their kids, or whether this is the school asking you, or sports clubs where your kids are, that people constantly asking for your time, wanting you to chauffeur them around and things like that. Journal about it. What are you okay with and what not? And this might look very different for different people in your life. You might have more time for your children than for a co-worker. Hopefully, I don't know. It's so individual for everyone. But what I really want to stress here is that no one knows where your boundaries are. People guess, and if you don't tell them, they put the boundaries in place for you, and however it suits them and it fits into their life and what they want from you. So it's about us to state them with love but firm. Okay, there needs to be some firmness, some groundedness. It's like, no, that's it. Okay, that's the truth for me. So it's my job to make that really clear to others. And the more we actually demonstrate and role model that, the more our children can learn from us too. That, hey, it's okay to have boundaries. It's okay to say no. That is very key. So I hope you found that useful. Because I know this time of the year is always a big challenge for everyone, and it comes up like even our Thriver community, if you're a Thriver member, hi, that there's big discussions around this time of the year always, which event are you going to go to, and is it really me cooking again this year, and all these kind of things coming up. Is it at my place again? So it's nice to have someone to bounce that off, to talk those boundaries through. So if you have a friend or someone, well, I invite you to join the Thriver community. We often talk about boundaries. So it's healthy to have those open conversations around this. I think it strengthens us, especially if it's a person that we can trust, that we can have those conversations without being judged. Okay. It's very interesting. You'll find that some people, it's much easier to state your boundaries. They'll just kind of go along with it. They'll accept it. And there's other people, it's like you state a boundary and they're making this big drama. They'll question it. They'll keep pushing it. They just won't accept it. Okay. Know that they're different people. Okay. Because when they're the toxic people, they are the people you want to spend less time with. And the people who are actually accepting, they're the ones they're nurturing, they're accepting. That's the kind of people that we want to spend more time with in our life. And also reminding myself always that people that I look up to, they all have very strong boundaries. Okay? That they kind of, with love, firmly state if I cross them. But we respect people more when they have boundaries. Okay? It's a sign of self-care when we're having those kind of boundaries. Alright, if we don't have boundaries, then we're neglecting ourselves, and we end up feeling drained and tired, and like I said, resentment, and even feeling used. Okay, and then we'll have shame and guilt about all these emotions. There's this kind of vicious kind of cycle. So I hope you can have some time and you journal about that as well. And if there's some questions, then please ask, or join the Thriver community so we can have some more questions or discussions around this as well, because I think it's so key for our healing journey to work and look at the boundaries, because this is something that's been violated so badly over and over and over throughout our childhood. That is why it's so difficult for us to find that courage. Oh, is it okay now for me to state a boundary, and will people actually respect that? Because in the past they didn't. Okay, so that's why it's nice to have a safe circle where we can kind of state it and practice that with each other and be there for each other. So with that, as always, sending you all a lot of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little. See you guys. Bye.